lot of us, especially at this age, looking for love, who don't want to waste a lot of time. What are we doing or might we be doing to chase men off, especially in the early stages? Thank you so much for tuning into Second Act TV. Once again, I'm welcoming back Robert Manni, the author of The Guy's Guide to Love and host of Guys Radio and TV. Robert, thanks for being here again.
Thank you for having me, Silka. Love being here.
Well, today, once again, want to utilize your guys' opinions on what women should avoid doing if you find that you're running men off. You start having a relationship and then, it just fizzles quickly, especially in the early stages. Lots of women are concerned with this. And sometimes, unless it's pointed out to you, you really don't know you're doing.
Oh, well, let's dig into it then.
All right. Number one, excessive calling. It says here that one of the biggest mistakes that women make in the early stages of dating is calling too often. And the man feels like you're chasing him.
I think that makes sense, because too much is too much. It's nice to talk on the phone. I think people don't talk on the phone enough, and they don't meet enough in person when they're in the courting stages of a relationship. It's too much texting, and people don't even email anymore. It's just texting. When you call all the time, that can be a little bit like, I had one person who, great relationship, terrific person, but she used to call me like every night at like 11 o'clock or something, just called to say, good night. And I was like, okay, that was nice the first time, but then every night, and I was like, she's checking up on me. She wants to see if somebody else is there. That was my take on it. It may have been true, may not have been true. It might have been just sweet. Sweetie, I just want to say goodnight. It just seems like, I don't know, guys aren't that chatty in terms of being phone creatures as much as women may be.
That's what they say here. It's just it's a turn off, and guys start, they like their space and they start feeling restricted, especially when it's just early on. If you're doing that, even if you think that you're being nice, maybe it's not the right word, but you want to show him that you're interested and that you care, you're making it's the wrong thing. Let him chase you. And boy, did I make that mistake. I point at myself when I say this. And which brings us to number two, initiating contact too early. Let him make the first move. That the first few days after a date are crucial. And if you text him right away, to keep, maybe you had a great first date, but now you're texting, you want to keep the conversation going, blah, 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 that quickly turns against you as well. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's good for the guy to do some pursuing, because nowadays it's gotten that guys can be really lazy, and I don't think it's good for the relationship. I think men should step up and put in the effort. It's a sad state of affairs if women have to chase the guys around all the time.
Well, yeah, and if you're falling into that, then it's almost like just leave the relationship, or don't do the chasing for that reason, because I think here. And here's the reason I'm saying this. When I first started dating again, and I liked somebody, I would immediately start to make plans. Let's do this, let's do that. Are you available here? Blah, blah, blah. I was super excited thinking that this is just great. And I had no idea I was running them off. I really was. No idea. Now that, after, 10 years later or 13, whatever it is, and I look back at this, I just laugh. And that's why I think these conversations that we have are so important for women to hear, that you can easily do this, especially if you're a strong woman.
Yeah. Well, I think initially sometimes guys don't read the tea leaves that well, and to let them know. And, sometimes women think they're letting the guy know that they're available or interested, and they're not, because guys are thick that way, that sometimes they don't get it. But once they've gotten the message, they've gotten the green light, then the guy needs to step up and make it happen. And that's the type of guy I think you want to be with, somebody who's willing to say, I've got a plan, he shows you that he's interested. And it doesn't have to be every single date he's doing all the planning, but come up with something, show a little initiative, guys.
What's funny about these points is that they really go against a lot of other advice that we've been not necessarily giving but covered, which is that women should make the first move, or it's okay for a woman to ask a man out. Those
It
reversal of
is.
yeah, those, well, it is, but the reversal of gender roles has, in many
Mm.
cases, it does turn the guy off, I think. I do. Do you feel that?
Guys can get complacent and lazy. Like if the woman's making the first move with sex all the time, they're going to be like, "Hey, this is great," you know. But I think you run the risk if you're a guy of letting women do all the planning and everything, because then she's going to be running your life, and
Mm-hmm.
you want to maintain some masculinity in a positive way. And I think women want guys to be guys in the best sense of the
Mm-hmm.
word,
Yeah.
not arrogant but confident.
Yeah.
But show you that they are interested. Do things, not just talk, but do things to show you that they respect you and they want to
Mm-hmm.
do things together. If you're doing
Yeah.
all the work, it's is that going to turn out well? I don't think so.
Here's another one. Yeah, constantly asking about his feelings. That you come across as very needy. That constantly probing him for his thoughts on the relationship is just a very insecure way of presenting yourself. That would, yeah. Well, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, you want to. I mean, it's important that a guy is emotionally available to you. But if it's an ongoing thing about, somebody has to hear those words all the time, that's on you, ladies. Do you really need to have him say all that stuff? I think you can take this to the bank. If a guy is not complaining about something, that means he's content. If he has a problem, guys will usually bring it up. They hear what you have to say. You may agree or disagree, and that's it. Then he'll say, "This is how she feels about that," and they go about their business. I'm being generalist here, but I think if the guy's not complaining, you can pretty much put it in the bank that he's feeling pretty good about the relationship. If you have to ask him his feelings all the time, I wouldn't do that. But once in a while, it's good to ask him about, what do you think about the relationship or something, and if he doesn't roll his eyes too much, he'll play. Is that the most important thing, having the conversations, or is it how does he treat you?
Yeah.
Do you do things together? Do you
Mm-hmm.
like him as a friend too? Do you have
Mm-hmm.
fun together? Does he make you laugh? If you got all that stuff, all this talk, these words about how I feel and all of that, does that really make that much of a difference? I don't know. If you're a woman and it does to you, then have a conversation about it, but don't do it every day.
So asking him, how do you feel about me? Is you
No,
would
don't do
recommend against
that.
that.
Well, I mean, at a certain point in a relationship, you've been going out a couple of months. How do you feel about the relationship over, having dinner or something? Okay, lob it up there and see what happens.
We've talked about this one before too, but absolutely, it runs or can run a man off trying to change him. Just always looking for perfection or wanting to change something about him, his behavior, whatever. But trying to change him is just something that will send a secure, healthy man running.
My personal belief on this is I am open. I want to hear what my partner has to say, to if she has ways that I can improve. That's not changing me, who I am, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not perfect. So I'm open to hear some type of criticism and some suggestions if it's going to make me a better person and a better partner. But there's a top on that. There's a ceiling where you don't want to go overboard with, you just constantly are telling him what to do, and you don't want to change who he is, because if you're changing who he is, why are you going out with him? Just find the person who you have in mind and go out with them instead. You can't really expect somebody, particularly a guy over 50, to change that much who he is. You can help them improve, bring out some things that may have
Mm-hmm.
been blocked, that may have been hurt, things like that. But you have to accept somebody for who they are. There's a difference between improvement and changing
And
somebody.
changing somebody, yeah. If there's really something that bothers you and you think that you can change it in a relationship, that's just terrible. It's just a horrible way to try to build a relationship. And I have to admit that there, women do tend to do that. Sometimes you hear that.
A lot of times, guys will feel a woman are being too critical because the intention is that they want the relationship to be as good as can possibly be. Sometimes it comes across as criticism about little things, and that drives guys like me crazy. But there's a difference between there's a good intentions. What do they say? The road to hell is led by good intentions, or something like an old
Something
saying
like,
like that.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyhow, the intention could be there, but there's a way that it's articulated that makes all the difference in the world.
The next point here, I agree with it, but the way, and again, it's a female author. We always love that when it's women giving women advice. It's kind of interesting. It says jumping into bed too fast. Take your time. That she writes here that rushing into physical intimacy can be a turnoff for many
Mm.
men, especially if they're looking for something long term. Can that be a turnoff for men, Robert?
You know, Probably not. They could wonder, like, if she hops into bed with me in the first date, does she do this a lot?
Right.
Beyond that, they'll just say, woohoo, lucky me. Listen, you're adults, you're over 50.
Mhm.
Do you have to wait 3 dates or 10 dates or whatever? No, you do it when it feels right. And that's all there is to it. It could be the first date, the second date, the eighth date. It doesn't matter. It's what works for you guys.
Again, like I said, we've covered that a lot, but it comes up all the time, and sometimes to your point, it does affect it. Is that if you're quote, easy, are you like that with everybody else? Are you still out there with other? It
Mm-hmm.
does raise certain levels of maybe of insecurity that could turn a man off if he wants a long-term relationship. Just an interesting topic where the old meets new, and as open-minded and stuff as you want to be, some of these old-fashioned thoughts, old-fashioned thinking, it prevails. I
Mm-hmm.
All right, here another one here, interesting. Putting yourself down. If you have self-deprecating humor, for example, it can be funny sometimes, but if you have a habit of constantly putting yourself down, it's a turnoff.
Well, words have power, and you have to be careful what you say just in general. If you keep saying, I'm such an idiot, well, then,
Mm-hmm.
you become one in some form or fashion. So you have to be careful about what you say, and you certainly don't want to put yourself down. The world will put you down. We all get put down by the world
Mm-hmm.
in different forms and fashions. The last person you want putting you down is yourself.
Yeah, and you're presenting yourself again as very insecure, and this whole article, it's supposed to be backed by studies and psychological research. Studies just show that insecurity, being secure, confident, is
Yeah.
just a big attraction, actually, for both sexes. So
Yeah. I mean, listen, some self-deprecating humor is good, but you're keeping it light, and you don't take yourself too seriously. You don't take
mhm.
life too seriously. You're not arrogant. That's fine. That's a good thing. But if you're constantly putting yourself down in front of your partner, it's like, what are they going to think?
Well, finally, here again, something we don't really think about, especially if we're really excited about a new relationship, is expecting the one too soon, meaning that you're just rushing the relationship, or you feel so good, you're in the spark versus in the longevity of the
Mm-hmm.
relationship, letting it develop. And if you're putting that kind of pressure on someone, that can easily run them off, like, oh, I found my soulmate, that sort of stuff.
Well, I think, when you're over 50, you do hear a little bit of the tick, tick, tick. You want to have that. If you're interested in a relationship, you don't want to let a good catch get away, because it seems like for some people, they think they're far and fewer between. However, 50% of people over 50 are single. So there's lots of fish in the sea out there. That said, there's no need to rush. You want to have things. There's something to be said about having a relationship unfold like a flower or blossom organically, and not
Mm-hmm.
be forced, because you start forcing things, and you're kind of going against how the whole universe works.
Mm-hmm.
If you say everything's the way it should be, everything's perfect, just roll with it. Things seem to happen in a good way. That I found, at least, that's how things work. When you start to, like, try to press things and force them, you squeeze them, they can slip through your hands. So
Mm-hmm.
just be careful with that. Enjoy it moment by moment. Be mindful, be present, be respectful, have fun.
Well, again, an interesting topic that a lot of us, especially at this age, looking for love, who don't want to waste a lot of time, that we need to know, what are we doing, or might we be doing to chase men off. And one of the number one things is, in fact, chasing him. That a lot of these points come down to that you're just you're just coming on too strong, and it sends someone running. What would you add to this topic, Robert?
Just be yourself. Don't try to change the other person. You can't force it. As we learn in life, the older we get, you can't force things. And sometimes the things that don't work out, that we were crushed over, turn out to be the best things that could happen to us. The job we didn't get, the relationship that didn't work out. Sometimes it turns out to be a really good thing because there's something even better around the corner. Now, when you're over 50, you say, I don't have that many corners to go around anymore. I want it now. Well, then you have to just be mindful, enjoy yourself while you're there,
Mm-hmm.
do the, be proactive, find out what you need to find out. Just no BS. It's not a time for BS. Just make it happen. If it's
Mm-hmm.
meant to happen, it'll happen. If it's
Yeah.
not, it probably won't. But
Yeah.
you have a big role in that, and just do your thing and be yourself and be happy.
No, you're right. You're right. Great way to sum it up. Robert, thank you again for giving us more of the male perspective on these things
The
that,
crazy
yeah, a
male
lot of
perspective.
no, I think you're spot on. I think our viewers think so too. Our women look forward to your input and advice, as well as the men like to hear it too, based on the comments that we get. So, great perspective. I know that our women really appreciate you're very kind and direct. Advice that you give on what we need to know about men. So I will link to all of your information as usual. Check out the show notes for Robert's radio show on UK Health Radio, and of course the book Great Read, The Guy's Guide to Love, and also subscribe to his YouTube channel. So thank you, Robert. I look forward to our next discussion on Second Act TV.
Thank you, Silka.